Why is public transportation such a disaster today in the United States? First, we'll look at why the US is struggling and compare them to a country having much more success in public transit, such as France. The start of the problem can be rooted back to the 1950s when the car became the dominant mode of transportation in the US. The number of registered vehicles has steadily increased since this time, and it only continues to rise as cars become more affordable and the population rises. Due to the increased use of cars, 75% of the transportation budget was spent on building and repairing roads, while less than 1% was set aside for public transit. Therefore, newer cities were built mainly with the car in mind, causing them to grow outward instead of inward since people could travel farther distances in their cars. This resulted in sprawling or very spaced out cul-de-sac heavy suburbs. For example, on the left is a more sprawled out transportation network that relies on the use of a car to get from, say, the house to the school. However, on the right is a more densely packed, gridded network that has more and faster ways to travel. It can also fit more people in the same area, therefore public transit vehicles such as a bus can cover more ground in a faster amount of time, thus increasing efficiency and ridership. A look at older US cities with tight street grids like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco supports this argument. This study shows that they have some of the linked public transit trips since 2013. However, sprawling in 1950s development wasn't the only thing to blame. For example, if you look to the US and France in the 1950s, they were both in the same path of automobile dependence. However, in the 60s, you start to see a divergence for France, who focus on expanding their transit systems into the growing suburbs. They invested more in light rail and bus systems and researched into new forms of travel. Today, France is investing heavily in what are called tramways. These are modern-looking vehicles similar to the streetcar that run on electricity, are silent, and are entirely flat floored to allow more room and comfort for the users. Tracks can also be installed over grassy surfaces to help with stormwater collection. As much as 29 French cities have already implemented tramway networks into their public transit system, and it has shown incredible success. In France as a whole, these tramways currently carry about 2.8 million riders a day, compared to about 1.6 million riders per day on all US light rail and bus systems combined. They are also less costly than some US alternatives. For example, a tramway costs an average of $35 million per mile of track, but according to the US Department of Transportation, a light rail or streetcar system costs an average of $50 million per mile, and in cities like Atlanta, it is shown to cost up to $72 million per mile. At these costs, the US should definitely be looking at ways to improve, and understanding how France has succeeded with the tramway is a great place to start. It will also help for the US to stop destroying the tight grid of their traditional cities. You can see here the difference in downtown Detroit from 1951 on the left versus today on the right. The gridded network was destroyed and spread out, with the addition of highways, parking lots, and other infrastructure made for the automobile. Further, with the implementation of more user-friendly transit systems like the tramway, it will improve efficiency and level of service, thus increasing ridership levels. Also, a study by the American Public Transportation Association found that over a 20-year period, for every dollar invested in public transportation, $3.7 will be returned, which represents a 370% growth in GDP. At current wage rates, this is equivalent to a ratio of approximately 50,731 jobs per $1 billion invested in public transportation, especially since people without access to a car will now have a safe, efficient, and effective way to travel to work. By learning from France's success, and by investing more into efficient and less expensive public transit systems, the United States' future in public transportation looks very bright. Thank you for watching.